Do you know how many panes of glass there are up there? 14,460. I'm just glad this is the only one I have to keep clean. They let a lot of light into this place, which was great for the electricity bill, but they also let a lot of light out. And as the mill worked through the night, it was a beacon that lit up the waters of Howe Sound, and it could be heard for miles around. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome to Britannia, once one of the largest copper mines in the world, and to mill number 3, which in its day was among the most efficient and advanced copper concentrators. This is why this place was built. All 20 stories of it, to liberate the minerals locked inside massive chunks of ore, just like that. One second. I'm so sorry you had to see this. We've got a much bigger rock on order. This is ore. It's rock made up mostly of minerals we don't want, but one in particular we do, chalcopyrite, because it contains copper. And if they found a few other valuable minerals in there, well, nobody was complaining. But it was copper that the miners were after, because it was here in such abundance. And because copper conducts electricity better than any other metal, except silver. If electricity is the modern world's lifeblood, then copper serves as its veins and arteries. Without it... sorry. Well, I guess you get the point. In its day, this mill ranked among the best at coaxing those copper minerals out of the rock, and that efficiency was built right into the design of this building. Each step in the concentration process was located one level below the step before, so that gravity was always helping to move the heavy ore along. And it took a lot of ore to get a little copper. But over the years, the engineers at Britannia got better and better at it. By the time the mill closed, they were extracting 97% of all the copper in the ore. In all, Britannia produced 1.3 billion pounds of refined copper. That's the same weight as 43,000 school buses. That's empty school buses. So, how did they do it? How did they actually get the copper from the rock? I thought you'd never ask. Let me show you. Okay. So you can't see me from where you're sitting, but I'm in the uppermost level of the mill. The milling process began with the arrival of train cars loaded with ore from somewhere within the mine's 240 kilometers of tunnels. Then the train cars empty their loads into receiving bins below the tracks. The first task was to break up the large chunks of ore in a process known as crushing. Where do they come up with these technical terms? Although it appears empty today, the crushing level was once filled with large machines. The first was called a jaw crusher, which is pretty much how it sounds. It's a set of jaws like a giant nutcracker. It breaks the larger bits of rock down into smaller pieces, about the size of a softball. All the ore was then sent to a second machine called a cone crusher. Like a giant pepper mill, it crunches up the softballs into even smaller pieces, about grape size. And from here, conveyor belts carried the crushed ore to the grinding mills. This is where the rock went into large rotating drums, filled with either steel rods or balls like this one. It's always heavier than I remember. The balls tumbled around inside the drums and smashed the rock into even smaller pieces. From there, we go to secondary grinding. Now mixed with water, the ore was washed into more ball mills. And as you can see, there were a lot of them. On several levels! The ore was then eventually ground down to the consistency of fine sand and water. But now all the different
mineral grains in that muddy slurry had to be sorted out. And this is where it gets really interesting. They actually found a way to get rock to float. Well, some of it anyway. In flotation, the ground up rock and water mixture was poured into troughs. Certain aromatic oils were added. Here at Britannia, they like to use pine oil. Then, air was pumped to the bottom of the troughs to create bubbles. As the air bubbles rose through the liquid, the bits of copper mineral clung to them and were drawn to the surface, while the other minerals just sank to the bottom.
The copper-rich bubbles remained in a froth at the surface where they could be skimmed off. This bubbling mixture often filled the mill with the scent of pine oil. The fourth stage, dewatering, happened right over there. The froth was piped into large wooden thickening tanks where this time the copper minerals settled to the bottom. This muddy mixture would then be piped into vats where the water was sucked out through canvas filters, leaving a sort of mineral cake behind called copper concentrate. But not the sort of cake you want to put a candle in, because this is how it looked. This is what was sent to the smelters to be refined into pure copper metal. So that's the process. That's how mill number 3 turned rock into copper concentrate. And that's still pretty much how we process minerals today to get the metals that we use in our everyday lives. But you know, this mill was also the pulse of a community. For the townspeople of Britannia Beach, the mechanical thunder coming from this building day and night must have been strangely comforting. Because if they heard those booming sounds, they knew the economy was booming, the mine was producing, and there'd be a paycheck to support their families. Of course, here inside the mill, it was a very different story. It was sometimes so noisy that the workers could barely hear themselves think. I wish there was some way of showing you just how really loud it was in here. Wait, stay with me. I'm gonna try something here. That can't be good. Okay, so the skip. The skip is a kind of sloping freight elevator used to carry the heavy equipment up to all the various levels. But workers riding it, that was absolutely forbidden. It's just too dangerous. Even empty, the skip weighs 3 tons. 15 tons with a full load. Imagine it would break free. Anything in its path, like right where you're sitting now, just... Well, fortunately that never happened. Okay, good. Anyway, there was plenty of other things going on here. For one, they were always repairing equipment or installing something new to improve the concentration process. Sometimes a particularly stubborn boulder would get caught in one of the receiving bins and have to be cleared before the next train arrived. And up there, the ship foreman would be told when they needed to deal with it, with a well-placed stick of dynamite. And once in a while, that even blew out the upper row of windows. Fire in the hole! Okay, that's got it. And here comes the ore train. Let's start the conveyor belts. And now for the jaw crusher. And the cone crushers. Now for the ball room. On to the flotation tanks. So, on November 1st, 1974, they shut down Britannia Mine and mill number 3 fell silent. Gone too was the beacon that had shone each night over Howe Sound. For the community that had always been there to serve the mine, the darkness and silence must have been strangely disquieting. You know what? I'm gonna leave you with the words of a longtime Britannia resident who put it much better than I ever could.
Can I tell you the first time it really struck me that this place was gone? They decided in '74 to shut it down because it was costing too much to get the ore out and it wasn't profitable. One day I went to Squamish grocery shopping, and when I came back, the mill, the concentrator, was dark. And I sat up on the bluff and I couldn't come home because I was crying so hard. It was the saddest thing. I'd never seen a mill building without lights in it. And that's when I knew it was over after being here for so many years.
So the people had to move on. But the building itself remains, a testament to all who lived and worked here. And today it's a National Historic Site. So I hope next time you're driving by, you might have a better understanding of what happened inside this amazing old building leaning against the mountainside. But not everything that happened, because some of that stays between us, right? Thanks for coming.